sister's keeper. I am my sister's keeper. I am my sister's keeper. I'm gonna say her name. I am my sister's keeper. I am my sister's keeper. I am my sister's keeper. I'm gonna say her name. I am my sister's keeper. I am my sister's keeper. I am keeper. I'm gonna say her name. I am my sister's keeper. I am my sister's keeper. I am my sister's keeper. I'm gonna say her name. I'm gonna say her name. I am my sister's keeper. 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 I'm gonna say her name. I am my sister's keeper. I am my sister. I am. I'm gonna say her name. I am. Oh, I am. I am. I'm gonna say her name. I am my sister's keeper. I am my sister's keeper. I am my sister's keeper. I'm gonna. I am my sister's keeper. I am my sister's keeper. I am my sister's keeper. I'm gonna say her name. I'm gonna say her name. I'm gonna say her name.
Good evening. Good evening. Thank you for joining us on the 9th anniversary of our Say Her Name campaign. My name is Gina Loring, and thank you very much, and I am one of the artists in residence at AAPF, alongside my fellow MC, Dina Wright-Joseph, our beautiful dancer, our lovely singer, Abby Dobson, and Afia Walking Tree, who led today's procession with her drums. We are gathered here today in remembrance of the Black women who have lost their lives to police violence. We are here to say their names in the face of the deafening silence that surrounds their deaths. Their killings and the silence that follows form the bedrock of this national crisis. These compounding factors go hand in hand in punctuating the pain of their family members, many of whom are here with us now in honor of their loved ones. We are so honored to have many of you with us here this evening. This year, our anniversary is entitled Black Women's Stories of Police Violence and Public Silence, takes its name from the title of the recently published book co-authored by Professor Kimberlé Crenshaw, the African American Policy Forum, and members of the Say Her Name Mothers Network. The words of Fran Garrett, Sharon Wilkerson, Valerie Carey, Gina Best, Rhonda Dormius, Cassandra Johnson, Jennifer Johnson, Maria Moore, Ashley Carr, Amber Carr, Deborah and Deborah Shirley form the backbone of this book. So it's their words, their writing, their truths. The book builds on the work and research of the Say Her Name campaign since its inception in 2014. The statistics surrounding the killing of Black women in this country are alarming. Black women and girls as young as 7 and as old as 93, I'm going to say that again, as young as 7 and as old as 93 have been killed by police. Black women are killed at disproportionately high rates than any other group of women in this country. Black women are often unarmed when they are killed, and much like their male counterparts, effectively none of the officers involved in their shootings have been held accountable for taking their lives. To take us back to the birth of this movement, I will now turn it over to our very own Kimberlé Crenshaw, Executive Director and co-founder of the African American Policy Forum. She will read an excerpt from the book she co-authored entitled Say Her Name, Black Women's Stories of Police Violence and Public Silence. Please join me in welcoming to the stage Professor Kimberlé Crenshaw.
I am standing in an air-conditioned auditorium thinking about Michelle Cusseau and the countless other Black women killed by the police whose deaths no one was paying attention to. My audience on this balmy spring day is mostly made up of public interest lawyers, students, and faculty. I am remembering the courage that Michelle's mother, Fran Garrett, exhibited after Phoenix police killed Michelle in her own home. Michelle's story, like those of too many others, would have ended when Sergeant Percy Duproux stole her life had she not been born to a tenacious mother who refused to let her daughter's name be forgotten. Fran was determined that her daughter's life and death would not be reduced to obscurity, another statistic that no one counted. Michelle was killed just 5 days after a cop gunned down Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri. After seeing the community protests taking shape there, Fran decided to march Michelle's casket to Phoenix City Hall. In this brave act of protest, she joined a powerful tradition of Black women resisting and denouncing the state violence that directly threatens them and all too often destroys their families. Fran's march to the Phoenix City Hall was a flare in the night. Fran's radical act, literally placing her daughter's casket at the door of municipal power, not only demanded that Michelle be seen, but also rendered the police killings of other Black women visible. The sorrowful procession of Michelle's coffin to City Hall left a searing image that spoke to the many ways in which Black women's fate has been left in the hands of police, while their stories have been marginalized and sometimes erased. While Michael Brown's killing justifiably sparked a wave of nationwide protests over the lethal police shootings of Black men, the killing of Black women like Michelle had yet to be memorialized in widespread activations and denunciations. Fran offered a powerful and moving witness to the fact that Black women were also losing their lives in circumstances that spoke to the disregard of Black life and family bonds. There was no sound reason for their stories to be banished to the shadows of our collective consciousness, mere afterthoughts in the litany of savagery that has come to constitute anti-Black state violence? Fran's Act reminded us all of the obvious fact that slain women's mothers don't grieve for them any less. Their children don't cry for them any less. Their siblings don't mourn them any less. And we should not protest their killings any less than we do the killings of their brothers, their fathers, and their sons. 6 months later, as I look out at the audience, I wonder who among them will know Michelle Cusseau's name? Would they know of any other daughters who were stolen like Fran's was? Or was the erasure of these horrific losses difficult to interrupt because of the reflexive ways that the very notion of anti-Black police violence defaults almost exclusively to our endangered sons? To make the patterns of erasure visible and audible, I invite the audience to join me in doing something new. I ask those audience members who are able to do so to stand. I tell them, when you hear a name you don't recognize, take a seat and remain seated. I promise to invite the last person standing to tell the seated audience what they need to know about the person whose name no one else recognized. Then, I call out the names, slowly, deliberately, and loud enough for even those seated in the very back of the auditorium to hear. Eric Garner, Mike Brown, Tamir Rice, Philando Castile, Freddie Gray. I'm always a bit surprised when one or two people don't recognize even those first few names, but fewer than a handful have taken their seats by the time I lift up Freddie Gray. The vast majority of people recognize these men, and they know the common risks that link their fates. They are Black and did not survive an encounter with police. I pause for a moment and ask the audience to look around. The room is quiet and still. People take in what they have demonstrated, group literacy about the vulnerability of Black people to police violence. At the moment, it seems a completely obvious reading of the social knowledge that is minimally necessary to ground any conceivable collective action. I continue. I say, Michelle Cusseau. And then comes that whoosh of dozens, sometimes hundreds, occasionally thousands of people taking their seats. It is the sound of silence. The sounds of people taking their seats mount as I continue the roll call. Tanisha Anderson, Ayanna Stanley Jones, Kayla Moore, India Kager, Shelley Fry, Corin Gaines. One person is left standing after India Kager, but I continue anyway so people can hear more names. At last, I release the last person from any obligation to speak. I remind everyone that I'm a law professor after all, and I only say the last person standing will tell us something about the name they recognize to ensure everyone's honesty throughout the exercise. There are nervous titters as the last person takes their seat. This moment releases some of the tension in the room, yet the point still hangs over us. The silence about Black women who've been killed by the police has distorted our collective capacity to respond. We cannot address a problem that we cannot name, and we cannot name it if the stories of these women are not heard.
Thank you, Professor Crenshaw, for taking us back to the genesis of this movement with a clarion call of how to break the silence by bearing witness. As we travel around the country, discussing the book at various bookstores and libraries, we push against this silence by engaging in the practice of bringing art to the core of our activism. As artists in residence at the African American Policy Forum, this work is particularly meaningful for us. Today, you'll see renderings of the work of the Say Her Name campaign in visual form, in live readings of excerpts from the book, in dance, in poems, and in song. If you are interested in supporting the Say Her Name campaign and would like to find out how you can get involved, please text SHN to 855-579-1270. This will also be repeated throughout the program. We also have an advocacy installation at the back in which ways you can get involved. So our next reading will be of Sharon Wilkinson, mother of Shelley Fry, a 27-year-old mother who was murdered in Houston, Texas. Shelley Fry was shot and killed on December 6, 2012, by Houston police attempting to arrest Fry and her friend who were accused of shoplifting at Walmart. Off-duty sheriff and Houston minister Lewis Campbell attempted and failed to stop Fry and her friend from exiting the store, and when they drove away, Campbell fired shots at the car, hitting Fry in the neck twice. Campbell later claimed that he fired shots in self-defense because the driver had attempted to run him over. And neither the police nor the car's driver sought medical attention for Fry. Her body was left in the car for 8 hours. Here to uplift the story of Sharon Wilkinson, please welcome artist and performer Kim Yancey.
Shelley died in 2012. And I got the call from Say Her Name in 2014. So that was 2 years. I didn't have any support. I've met so many women through Say Her Name that have lost daughters, who have left grandkids behind. That's the hardest part of it. What do you tell these kids when they are too young to understand? The 2-year-old would say, "When is Mama coming to get us?" Well, we all waiting for her to come through the door. But she's never coming through the door. I still feel like I'm babysitting sometimes. I sit there and it's like, okay, when is she coming? When's she gonna call? Our daughters were taken from us. Our whole world changed. They weren't just murdered, they were taken, and we can't get them back. They can't come back. Now, you did more than just murder her. You took a part of us, something we birthed, we carried for 9 months. You just came and snatched it away from us like nothing. You know, what I'll never understand is why he had a gun in the first place. I doubt they have armed security guards in Bloomingdale's. What was so serious about the situation that he had to shoot? What was so urgent? It's not like they had stolen the Mona Lisa or something. It wasn't that serious. They get into the car where their 2 young children are waiting for them. And as they start to drive off, an armed security guard shoots twice into the front window, striking Shelley in the neck. And hours later, she is pronounced dead. Now, I've wondered about the guard dog who killed Shelley. Walmart lapdog is more accurate. Lewis Campbell. Reverend Lewis Campbell, he turned out to be. Found out he has a church in Houston, a killer and a minister. You know, I wonder, Reverend Campbell, what scripture you will quote when you meet your maker. How you will explain to God that when he told you to feed and care for our children, you chose to kill them instead with a Bible in one hand and a gun in another. Oh, I pray that I don't have to wait that long to see you pay. Oh, yes, each day I pray on it. But if I do have to wait to see it, Lord knows I want a front row seat on that judgment day just to see Shelley open up that gate and kick your sorry ass right into hell for killing Shelley and for not having 1 ounce of compassion for any of us left behind.
Thank you, Kim Yancey, for that powerful reading of Sharon Wilkerson's words. So one of the ways that we keep the stories of these women alive is by incorporating art into our advocacy. As was mentioned earlier, the Say Her Name campaign uses various forms of art to bring our movement to life. Poetry is one such example of this. So tonight, I'd like to share a poem I wrote entitled "The Revolution is You." And I invite you to be participatory. So if something moves you, feel free to say amen, hallelujah, ashe, snap, snap. I invite this to be a reciprocal, energetic kind of an experience. So this is "The Revolution is You." The revolution is a single mother. 3 kids, 2 jobs, 1 prayer. It is Sojourner Truth, Joan of Arc, and Frida Kahlo meeting clandestine by candlelight, Betty Shabazz, Myrlie Evers, Coretta Scott King, up sleepless nights. It is labor. The revolution is a Lakota Sioux woman at Standing Rock nursing her baby. She is speaking to God. A lullaby of resilience, the rhythm of breath on her skin, akin to patchwork prayers, Louisiana blues. We release you from our bodies, trusting the moon to watch over you. It is Trayvon Martin walking home in the rain. A Tatiana Jefferson's final breath. Breonna Taylor, Sandra Bland, Corinne Gaines, India Kager, Shelley Fry, Pamela Turner, Miriam Carey, Michelle Shirley, Mike Brown. It is the sound of 1,000 broken hearts, more than one poem could ever hold. Parents burying their babies is unnatural, ungodly, like bigotry, like bullets. The revolution knows the underbelly of all that is broken and bare, understands we must uncloak ourselves and be made again of spun light, reroute this blood in divine alignment, live out loud, make of this life a river of stars unleashed. Speak. The revolution is every grandmother, sister, daughter who held you before you even took form, rocked you in our arms before you could speak or walk or write, but the world will not magically change overnight. No one will right these wrongs for you. No one can make your feet dance or march or move. This is not a movie. There will be no paparazzi, red carpet, no entourage, no groupies. There is no room for Hollywood idolatry in a conversation about freedom. We must not be distracted by complacency, pop culture trickery. The revolution is not a mainstream consumer-based funded event, not sponsored by Nike or Nokia, not a reality show. It is reality. Where Kardashian is a household name, but Mumia Abu-Jamal is not. Where an afternoon of Botox costs enough to feed a dozen homeless families, where men in power are not held accountable for unspeakable behavior, where women are demonized for telling the truth, where money buys silence, buys loyalty, buys bodies, where all black folks are a suspect and every cop has impunity, where communities live in a chronic state of loss. This is a world where the prison industrial complex legally enslaves black and brown, where children wake up in war zones, poor people killing poor people. Poor people killing poor people, poor people killing poor people, poor people killing poor people, poor people killing poor people. Look up. Death lullabies rattle the heavens. Be witness. The revolution will not be featured on Sunset Boulevard billboards or a sponsored post on your Instagram feed. The revolution is action. It is each shot fired, each bomb shattering the sky open. It is daring to live anyway. Look the demon in the eye and suck a bunch that MF with a poem. Because the revolution will not wait, not come at your convenience. There is no rewinding, no fast forwarding, no time traveling. There is only now. There is only now, only here, only now, only here, only now. The revolution is here, the revolution is now, the revolution is here, the revolution is now, the revolution is here, the revolution is now, the revolution is you. Thank you.
Thank you, Gina, for sharing those words with us and illustrating so potently how poetry can be a connective avenue in our advocacy work. In the wee hours of October 12th, 2019, 28-year-old Atatiana Jefferson was shot in her home by a police officer in Fort Worth, Texas. A neighbor had called the non-emergency line to do a welfare check on her house when they spotted her doors open. Former Officer Aaron Dean and his partner showed up at 2 in the morning to scope out her home without identifying themselves as police. Tatiana was playing video games with her nephew Zion when she heard noises coming from the backyard. So she picked up her legally owned firearm and went to check it out. And at 2:25 a.m., Dean shot a single shot through her window. Half an hour later, she was pronounced dead at the scene. In a rare case of institutional accountability, Dean was found guilty of manslaughter on December 15th, 2022. Tonight, we honor the story of Atatiana Jefferson. Actors Stacey Sargent and Pernell Walker will be reading an excerpt from the book from Atatiana's sisters, Amber and Ashley Carr. Please welcome Stacey and Pernell to the stage.
Hi, my name is Ashley Carr. I'm a sister of Atatiana, and I'm a part of the Say Her Name Mothers Network.
I'm Amber Carr. I'm Atatiana's sister, and I'm a part of the Say Her Name Mothers Network.
On the morning of October 12, 2019, the across the street neighbor called 311, which is a non-emergency number, and said that my mother's house doors were open. He knew that my mom had been sick and wanted to know if somebody would just check on it. Now, I don't know what happened in between, but it was sent out as an open structure. The police did not park on the street, didn't do any lighting on the street in front of the house or anything. What they did do is they parked around the corner and approached the house as in, I'll say, a Call of Duty way. Guns were already out. You go to my mother's house, you see that all the exterior doors are in the front of the house. So if you're in the back of the house, you can't get out. He passed up both doors. The screen doors were closed, but the exterior doors were open. All lights were on in the house, but never rung the doorbell on both doors. Instead, he passed them up and flashed lights through the windows and things of that nature. Gets to the back of my mom's house to the gate. The gate is hard to open, so you have to jiggle at it to open it. But the catch of that is Tatiana's bedroom is literally on the other side of that gate.
So that night, Her and Zion was up playing video games, as they always do on a Friday night, to the wee hours, till the sun comes up. That's Tay. She goes to sleep when the sun comes up. And he came in the backyard, and I guess she looked out the window, and in the same breath, it was like everything was literally simultaneously with each other. And he said, "Show me your hands." And in that breath of saying, "Show me your hands," he shot through the window. There was never any time to comply. There was never any time to figure out, who is this in my backyard? Oh, at this moment, we don't know what happened after. We can only speculate. We're currently waiting for trial. So he was charged, but he was charged with murder. I guess that at grand jury he was charged. The district attorney got an indictment.
And now we're waiting for trial.
And he was arrested, but then he was bailed out by the police union. So he didn't really spend any time there.
He spent no time there.
Got in and got out.
And he got presidential treatment.
He got out, and he's been out, and he's still out, and he's trying to continue to be out to this day.
Yeah, they're trying to figure out what ways in law, what stall tactics can be done, and they have pulled every card.
And they've been granted.
Yes.
The trial was supposed to be in November 2020. Then it got moved to November of 2021. Then it got moved to January 2022. To then from January got moved to May 2022. In May, it got moved to June 2022. And every time this happens, you're trying to anticipate. Our anxiety is up, trying to figure out, life at that moment is up. People say, how can you live? We're at this moment where we're just stuck. We're literally stuck at this moment.
So, what we learned is that laws matter. And we're also learning that local elections extremely matter. So we definitely push voter registration. We definitely push local elections and making sure that the people we know are in the know, when it is and who's running. Because we had to learn that the DA is our attorney. We don't get to pick who gets to fight for a Tatiana. The city has chosen that person, and so this fight is crazy. We had to fight for our own sister's funeral. It was so much drama. People forging documents and lying to the courts about who they were, and because we didn't know that the courts granted those things, and we had to go and mediate with people about a funeral. They weren't even part of her life. Now, I'm being honest, that was hard, and my mama was not there.
The whole time, she couldn't go to the funeral.
She could not go. That was hard. That was the hard part for me. I begged those administrators at the hospital, please, can I just have her for one day? If something happens to her, I won't sue or anything. But my mom needed to be there and couldn't because she was so weak. And I have to be strong through all this. I gotta be her legs, I gotta be her arms, I gotta be her voice through all this. As Amber says, it was an adrenaline rush. People say, you're strong, but I wasn't there. The flesh was here, but being honest, that wasn't me.
It's like the Energizer Bunny running. It just keeps going and going and going and going and going. So when it comes to justice, we held Black Voters Matter.
We did a children's protest. We taught the children how to protest.
And it was the best protest I've ever seen.
We can't do protesting because what we've learned is that everything we do will be used against us in a court of law.
So you ask us, what have we done for justice? And everything that we have done was brought up in court.
Everything we've done, because we have a gag order on our case. So we can't really talk about it, but we don't know anything. We only know what everybody else knows. So our goal was we wanted to uplift a Tatiana.
Memorialize her.
Thank you, Stacy and Purnell, for reading those words from Ashley and Amber Carr, which impel us to move forward in action. Ashley Carr will be joining us later on our panel on advocacy. And now I'd like to welcome back Professor Crenshaw to share more about what we hope to accomplish with this book and commemorate some of the mothers and sisters we have lost. Dr. Crenshaw.
The act of bearing witness is at the heart of Say Her Name. It's at the heart of the book. It's a central part of our effort to trace state violence against Black women back to its odious roots in enslavement, when the bonds that Black mothers had with their families were inhumanely and grotesquely disregarded and denied. Yet, in the face of all of this, we are also lifted by these survivors' fearless advocacy for their sister or daughter in the aftermath of their death. In the stories they tell, to see their lives of those who have been taken from us through a very special window that only the closest people to you can open, lifts us and brings their spirit to us. A mother remembers her daughter's love of singing. A sister excitedly recalls going to a concert with her new concert buddy, a precious moment she shared with her sister that is etched forever in her mind. This book has been written from many hearts and aspires to touch many more. The heart, we know, is more than a metaphor for love and loss. It is quite literally the organ that keeps us alive. Sadly, broken hearts exact a physical toll on members of Say Her Name Mothers Network, some who we have lost due to stress-related illnesses. This year, we tragically lost Amber Carr, sister of Tatiana Jefferson. She was a dedicated member of the Say Her Name Mothers Network. Weeks before her death, Amber testified to the world about how much her family lost when her sister was killed by a Fort Worth police officer in 2019 in the presence of Amber's 7-year-old son, Zion. We will also always remember and honor the lives of Vicki Coles-McAdory and Cassandra Johnson, both early members of our Say Her Name Mothers Network, who also worked tirelessly to raise awareness about police violence against Black women. Vicki's niece, India Beatty, who she raised like a daughter, was killed by police in 2016. Cassandra Johnson's daughter, Tanisha Anderson, was killed by police in the family's front yard in 2014. We are reminded over and over again that when Black women are killed by the police, when they are taken from this earth, the hole that is left in their absence is unfillable. For families like Amber's, Vicki's, and Cassandras. Their grief endures, and too often it becomes deadly. It was a privilege to know these women during their lives, and it is now an honor to commit the rest of our lives to saying their names. As we mourn these lost lives, our movement continues the essential work of raising awareness by bearing witness. I would now like to introduce a video which encapsulates a little bit more about what this past year has been for the Say Her Name movement as we took this book across the country. The silence about Black women who've been killed by the police has distorted our collective capacity to respond.
Say Her Name, it's the breaking of the silence. It's really something beautiful that's coming out of a tragic situation.
So many times you don't hear the stories of the women that it's happening to.
I don't want her to be forgotten. So when I hear Say Her Name, to me, I start thinking of my sister. I start thinking of India. I start thinking of Shelley.
Change can't come about until people are aware. When they refuse to say their names, how is change going to come about?
This book is an exercise in bearing witness and being willing to sit with the cascade of emotions that come with bearing witness. In the excerpts from the mothers of Say Her Name in the book, we are angered by the contemptuous ways in which their loved ones' lives were stolen. We are shocked by the callous ways that a mother or a sister was informed or not informed.
When I turned on the news, I saw what looked to be my sister's car. I saw what looked to be my niece being held by an officer. And there was a footer that read, "Suspect killed."
We are heartbroken to hear about the lifelong scars of the young children who witnessed the deaths of their mothers at the hands of police.
Romans 5 now. He's got complete hearing loss in the left ear from the flashbang.
We are frustrated by the compounding losses and institutional betrayal.
In September 2016, an internal police investigation concluded that Officer Ruby, who had previously been involved in a fatal shooting, was justified in shooting Corinne Gaines. He was subsequently promoted.
Yet in the face of all of this, we are also uplifted by survivors' fearless advocacy for their sisters or their daughters in the aftermath of their deaths.
We lost Mary on October 3rd, 2013, 10 years ago. In 2015, we received a phone call from Dr. Kimberlé Crenshaw. Really just wanted to amplify the women who have been killed by police. There was a group of us and Sharon was there with me, and that was the launch of the Say Her Name campaign.
How can you demand justice if you don't know the names? How can you tell their stories if you've never heard it?
At 2:15, we are going to go out to release Butterflies in Miriam's name. We will say her name 5 times for each time she was shot.
Say her name.
Mary.
Can we say a Tatiana Project?
Our goal was we wanted to uplift a Tatiana, to do what Tay was doing the night she was murdered, exposing youth to STEAM.
Help us keep a Tatiana's name, her legacy alive.
Being a part of the network, it allows me to be able to smile at times because sometimes you don't want to smile and you feel guilty for smiling.
We cry together, we laugh together, and we strategize and advocate together. It's amazing to just be in a space where I don't have to explain how I feel because you know how I feel.
Because sometimes you can be in a space with these women and there's no words that need to be said. Like, you're just filling up the space with each other because we all know what it is.
I did not know how much it would have an effect on my life as far as the decisions I make, the books that I read, the way I choose to act on Michelle's behalf is just opening like a flower.
We can't be quiet. We have a voice, and we need to come together as sisters and unite, and we fight. 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 We gon' fight.
As you saw in the video, we have been taking our movement around the country and uplifting the intersectional stories of Black women killed by the police and the families they leave behind. It's not lost on us as we gather here tonight. All around the country, we are seeing the consequences of the erasure of these stories, the erasure of our history. Whether this is Governor DeSantis's attack against African American studies or new social studies standards where children will be taught that there were benefits to enslavement. We are also living in a time of unprecedented number of book bans, particularly those that feature characters of color or that speak about race and racism. These attacks against Black studies, against our history and literature, are branches of the same tree, a tree whose roots are deeply rotten. Our hope is that with the publishing of Say Her Name, Black Women's Stories of Police Violence and Public Silence, is to make the issue of police killings of Black women a national conversation, as the Say Her Name campaign and the Mothers Network have fought to do over the last 9 years. Publishing the book at a time of rising censorship and renewed attacks on Black stories, on Black knowledge, only motivates us more. I'm going to pass the mic now to Kirsten West Savali, journalist, writer, and cultural critic, who serves as the VP of Content at I1 Digital. For this conversation, we have Rhonda Dormius, the mother of Corinne Gaines, and Ashley Carr, the sister of Tatiana Jefferson, and AAPF artist in residence, Abby Dobson.
How's everyone? Thank you all for joining us tonight. As Kimberlé said, my name is Kirsten West Savali, and I will be moderating our conversation. On stage, I have members of the Say Her Name Mothers Network. Tonight, we want to consider the ways in which we keep the demand for justice alive in our hearts, spiritually, politically. One of the ways that the Say Her Name campaign does so is by sharing who these women were and who they remain in the lives of their loved ones as they share some of their deepest and most personal memories. These reflections are what the book captures so evocatively. I would like to welcome Rhonda and Ashley for joining us today, not only as a mother and sister of the Say Her Name Mothers Network, but as co-authors of this important book. Rhonda, you have been on a number of the book stops so far, where you have heard your words from the book spoken. We saw a bit of that in that video. So often in media, people say that words are flat, right? But we know that words can sing, they can dance, they can create breath, they can create space. How was it for you to see your words used in such a powerful way?
Well, for me to see my words used to amplify my child's demise, state-sanctioned demise, it motivated me to continue to fight because the numbers are being added to, and so we need a multitude of family members, mothers, sisters, to be out here uplifting our girls. You know, if we don't do it, who will? Absolutely. You know, so just being there and seeing the people wanting to know what our stories are, it was very emotional for me, like for most of us. You know, we just need to have our girls amplified and recognized because their lives definitely mattered.
I think one of the things we often face is that women in this movement are positioned as victims by proximity, right? Like who we are as mothers or lovers or partners to men, and not as victims ourselves of police violence. So I can imagine what it must be like to not only hear your words, Ashley, but also your sister Amber's. Why was it important for both of you to memorialize a Tatiana, your Tay, in that way? Take your time.
My sister, I am the oldest. So to not have neither one of my sisters here at this moment, it's a surreal place to be here. My sister Amber, she was so amazing. And realizing through this whole fight, she was fighting for her own life in the same breath. But that didn't stop her. She was at protests. She was, you know, always amplifying stuff for other people because she knew that, you know, us together made us stronger. Hearing my sister, it's like I had a piece of her here, still here. And it helps me in this fight because this fight is so, it's taxing on your body and your mind mentally. But to know that I had her there through it all, it made me feel good so that I didn't have to fight the first part of this fight by myself.
You know, there's something called weathering on, and that's the concept that explains how the impacts of racism affects Black women and makes us age faster and harms our bodies in different ways. And I can imagine that is what you're experiencing as well.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I am. You know, Amber had two sons, and having to navigate. Sometimes I don't get to feel my feelings because I have to make sure that they're good all the time. And it's because our son Zion has social, emotional issues that has arrived from this. And people want to label him as a disrespectful child. And he's really just trying to figure out why his life is the way it is. So learning to have grace and also learning to know, you know, when is the right time for discipline, all this stuff, when it's no time to grieve. So when do you grieve is the question I've been asking, because I've been holding it in for the last 4 years.
Professor Crenshaw, you write in a chapter of the book titled Stolen Histories that a full grasp of the historical and contemporary context of Black women's vulnerability and victimization is crucial to thorough reckoning with anti-Black violence and its tangled, destructive legacies. We know that state-sanctioned violence and violence against Black women is mapped across our bodies in many, many different ways. Can you explain a little more what you mean by this, and why was it so important for you to center the voices of the mothers and sisters of Black women killed by police?
Yeah. Well, I think this is what we're seeing, hearing, feeling, witnessing, experiencing right now. Anti-Black violence has been imagined in a particular way. It's been imagined somewhat exclusively as moments of mob terror. It's been imagined as efforts to contain and discipline Black masculinity. And it has been that since we arrived here. But there are other things that it's been since we arrived here as well. It's been the abuse of Black women. It's been the disregard of our motherhood. It's been the commercialization of our bonds with our children. It's been the creation of stereotypes that made that okay. Yes, we can rip children away from their mothers because they don't really care about them anyway. They don't really know what love is. They're not really attached to their families. And it's been experienced in the way that these injuries over the course of generations just lay there. They just are there. We are told to suck it up. We are told to just roll with it. We are told not to scream, not to cry, not to be angry, definitely not to be angry. And all of that stuff either kills us directly or kills us indirectly. That's kind of the choice. It's one or the other. So when we look at the ways that Black women lose their lives through violence, we have to broaden that violence, not only to the bullet that kills us or the beating that kills us, but the trauma that kills us. And the fact that that trauma does not have the same effect on our community to step in and address and deal with that trauma. It's like, oh, y'all can handle that. Yeah. I can't tell you how many times I've seen my sisters show up for other people, but not show up for themselves. Where do we learn that? Where do we get the idea that when we lose our lives or when we don't have time to grieve, that's okay? I think we learn it because these stories have not been told historically. I think we learn it because the way enslavement and violence and segregation gets told doesn't tell the things where there's shame and guilt. And there's a lot of shame and guilt around the things that have happened to us, right? Our shame and guilt and the shame and guilt of our husbands, fathers, sons. We have got to transcend that guilt. We've got to not own that because we shouldn't feel guilty for what was done to us. What we need to be is responsible to each other for seeing that pain, stepping in and being willing to bear witness to it, saying we won't be satisfied as long as these stories aren't told, and we definitely won't be satisfied as long as justice isn't done. So the beginning of that is recuperating what our experience has been across history, saying it, telling it, being clear that it is not our story of shame, it is the system's story of what it has done to us and continues to do to us. That's why the book had to be written.
Absolutely. I often say that if you've heard of Nat Turner but not Mary Turner, you're doing it wrong. You're doing it wrong. And one of the ways that we disrupt that is when people say their name, it's not that we're forgetting about our fathers, our sons, our brothers. This was started because we needed to have the focus on Black women as well. Abby, you stated in the book that sonic narratives move and propel us to soar beyond limiting forms of life, and that you created the Say Her Name song to be a sonic expression of the unique positionality and precarity of Black women and girls. Can you walk us through what you mean by this and what your creative process was?
Sure. I think what's unique about what Black women and girls experience is that
we often carry the burden. And I wanted to create sound that would help us come through this horrifying experience that, as has been said, if it didn't happen to you, you can't really understand the depth of it. We can only sort of guess. I think sound is particularly important because it's unique. You know, it's how, if you look at a dementia, person suffering from dementia, they can remember how to play the piano or to sing a song, and they can't remember anything else. There's something really specific about sound, able to get through and to connect and to hold you and to keep you as you deal with what you need to deal with. And so sound is a way to deal with trauma. It's a way to heal, and healing justice is a part of what we've been doing with Say Her Name in the years that it's been in existence. And it's critical. It's critical for us to sound it out, to cry, to wail. So many of us stifle what we need to actually express, and sound helps us do that.
It's like, what do you do when you have no words?
Exactly. Sometimes things are, you can't put it into words, but you can make a sound.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yes.
Ashley, in the excerpt we just heard from the book, you state, laws matter. And we're also learning that local elections extremely matter. Can you elaborate a little bit about what you meant when you said that in the ways in which you have been transformed to be an advocate in this movement for justice?
Oh.
Now,
yes.
I do want to say we recognize that justice is a Tatiana still being here. Yes. Is your sister still being here? But how do you move through this process?
The process is everybody always asks you, like, how you doing? And I'll just tell you, I'm pushing through.
Right.
Because that's how I'm handling the situation. You have to deal with, you got pushed into a world that I just voted. I just, went to the ballots, voted for people, and went on about my life. I didn't understand how all of those positions that you go to the ballot and push really were involved in everything that we do, from the judges, from the DA, from the city councilmen and things of that nature, because I didn't even understand, they have to, they are a part of any type of things that go involved with suing the cities and things of that nature. Then that means you have to start talking to the city managers, you have to start talking to your councilman, the mayor, things like that. And all those people are voted on. And if they don't feel the same way you feel, it becomes a push. And so what they'll do is they'll just start using the things that people label as negative things, but kind of like what you said, I'm not letting that define me. We're not gonna, those are things that happen to us. So they'll use those things to stall and keep us waiting, keep us in turmoil of, in the middle of it. And I realized that, so that's one thing I'm pushing. I am pushing for us to be in those positions. We have lots of community members who are great leaders in our community, but they don't know how to navigate to get into those positions. And I feel like those are things that we need to push, because we need more of us in there, because outside protesting is good, but being at the table singing is better.
Right. And as Kim kind of alluded to, we got to be real clear about who the us is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Right? Rhonda, I do, just as an opportunity, when we think about Corinne, so much of her narrative is she was a warrior. So much of her narrative is when we talk about the system not being broken but functioning exactly as it was intended to function. We think about Corinne, who stood up for herself in those moments. Not just you, I want you to know that when her story is told, when we talk about it, that's how we think about her.
Thank you.
Just this past week, the Maryland Supreme Court heard arguments in the case of your grandson, Cody. who suffered life-altering injuries when his mother was killed.
Yes.
For those of you who don't know, qualified immunity is a judge-created rule that protects government officials, including police officers, when they are sued. In Cody's case, it is the basis of the Baltimore County Police attempting to evade accountability for the $37 million jury verdict awarded to him. Rhonda, you've spoken a bit about how this protection is unique and wouldn't apply in the job that you had as a nurse. Can you talk a bit about what and how that motivates you still to fight for justice for Corinne and Cody?
You know what? I'm not going to lie. I've gotten weak because continuously having to deal with the system and make them hold them to accountability it's draining, and just to know that my grandson had to relive in front of the Supreme Court, he had to relive him being shot with a bullet that passed through his mother first. I'm beginning to not even know what accountability looks like anymore. You're going to say that my grandson was collateral damage, basically. The qualified immunity they're holding over his head is saying, oh, I did this to save you, young man, but you just happened to get hit. When the officer said that he could not see his mother and he didn't know the proximity of my grandson to her, he stated he intended to hit her in her head, which apparently he felt would have avoided hitting Cody. Little did he know the very bullet that hit her in her back went through her and hit my grandson in the face. My grandson is lucky to be alive, but he is messed up. Ashley knows. She's dealing with a nephew who has been beyond traumatized. And then he had to witness this officer, after shooting his mother, come in and stand over her and shoot her 3 more times, send her mass. That's why we need Say Her Name, to be able to control the narrative, to give us the ability to get our stories out. Because if we hadn't told the things that happened behind the scene, civil lawsuits are good in its own way because it brings out the truth. The truth that if qualified immunity wasn't in place, could allow families to move forward in criminal cases. That's the big issue. We're going to hide you behind this immunity and just allow people to just willy-nilly do whatever they want. We need to fight in every state to remove qualified immunity.
Oh, what a mighty people we are.
I need my sisters, though. Let me just say this. This is the first time that, we've almost all of us, that's 2 missing, but, this is going to be powerful because we need this energy. We know when we go back home, it's not the same. People don't know what we deal with. They just don't.
About the Negro meek and mild, be gentle the day we change our minds, right? Kim, you're right, the shame is not ours. So we're going to have to wrap this up. I think that what we've heard today and what we'll continue to hear is that we need to be there for each other. We need to be there for Black women, not just in proximity to others, to men in our lives. We love them, we care about them, we cherish them, but we also have to stand up for ourselves.
Yeah.
I want to thank all of the panelists tonight for sharing their thoughts with us. You all have been amazing and courageous. If you are interested in supporting the Say Her Name campaign and would like to find out how you can get involved, please text SHN, that's SHN, to 855-579-1270. Again, we also have an advocacy installation at the back where you can find ways in which to get involved. Thank you all so much. I'll pass the mic back to Professor Crenshaw.
Since 2015, AAPF and our partners have gathered to support mothers, sisters, aunts, grandmothers, and families of Black women who've been killed by police. When we do so, we perform rituals of remembrance for those we've lost. We curate community, providing resources for those directly impacted by this violence, and we demand life-affirming practice to preclude this senseless loss of life. Ritual has been at the center of our movement since our first Say Her Name vigil in New York's Union Square, where the light of these women's lives and the meaning of justice for their families took center stage. These ceremonies, invocations, and meditations are powerful actions through which each one of us shares the responsibility of remembrance and stewardship. Our intention is to bear witness, to counteract the erasure that keeps these tragedies out of public memory and that leaves their families holding what we have called the loss of the loss. By bearing witness to their stories and sharing what you've learned with your family and friends, you can play a critical role in breaking the ripples of silence surrounding the police killings of Black women, and in doing so, turning the tide of racial injustice in this country once and for all. We will now begin our Say Her Name call and response ritual. Abby Dotson will now join us again to sing the song that she wrote for the campaign. I will be joined on the stage by staff, board members, and friends of AAPF. We will read each woman's name out loud and ask that you repeat the name back. On your seats, you have a card with the name of a Black woman who has been killed by police. As directed by staff, please leave your card at your seat and go to a staff member. These are all of the people in black, and there is a bowl. And from that bowl, you will receive a cloth. They will hand the cloth to one of our readers, who will read the name out loud, and we will all repeat the name twice. You will then take your piece of cloth to the back of the room and hang it on the large tapestry on the wall. We have staff members to support you in this process. And if you are willing, a staff member will hand you an additional piece of cloth, and we will repeat the process until all of the names are read.
Say her name, all the names I cannot.
Latoya Greer, say her name. Say her name. Say her name. Amanda Anderson, say her name. Say her name. Betty Jones, say her name. Say her name. April Webster, say her name. Say her name. Duana Johnson, say her name. Say her name. Natasha McKenna, say her name. Say her name. Jamila Barnett, say her name. Say her name. Sherry Singleton, say her name. Say her name. Kim Groves, say her name. Say her name. Anderson, Carolyn and Adams, say her name. Say her name. Robin White, say her name. Say her name. Andrea Hall, say her name. Say her name. Kendra James, say her name. Say her name. Pearlie Golden, say her name. Say her name. Brittany Cottrell, say her name. Say her name. Elena Mondragon, say her name. Say her name. Kendra Williams, say her name. Say her name. Linda Joyce Friday, say her name. Say her name. Kiwi Herring, say her name. Say her name. Erica Collins, say her name. Say her name. Nika Holbert, say her name. Say her name. Iwara Askew, say her name. Say her name. Catherine Hissaw, say her name. Say her name. Aretha Lilly, say her name. Say her name. Rakia Budari, say her name. Say her name. Alexia Christian, say her name. Say her name. Denise Hawkins, say her name. Say her name. Eleanor Bumpers, say her name. Say her name. Catherine Johnston, say her name. Say her name.
Annette Green, say her name. Annette Green. Say her name. Annette Green. Martha Donald, say her name. Martha Donald. Say her name. Martha Donald. Danette Daniels, say her name. Danette Daniels. Say her name. Danette Daniels. Sierra Lee, say her name. Sierra Lee. Say her name. Sierra Lee. Teresa Brooks Africa, say her name. Teresa Brooks Africa. Say her name. Teresa Brooks Africa. Barbara Dawson, say her name. Barbara Dawson. Say her name. Barbara Dawson. Dorothy Williams Johnson, say her name. Dorothy Williams Johnson. Say her name. Dorothy Williams Johnson. Gwenya McMillan, say her name. Say her name. Kayam Livingston, say her name. Say her name. Sanji Taylor, say her name. Say her name. Takia Young, say her name. Say her name. Taisha Miller, say her name. Say her name. Clara Morris, say her name. Say her name. Cora Bell Jones, say her name. Say her name. Sakiba Jackson Oluwa Namwe, say her name. Say her name. Denise Gay, say her name. Say her name. Margaret Mitchell, say her name. Margaret Mitchell. Say her name. Margaret Mitchell. Talia Barnes, say her name. Talia Barnes. Say her name. Talia Barnes. Chantel Davis, say her name. Chantel Davis. Say her name. Chantel Davis.
Emil, say her name. Say her name. Katawaba Howard, say her name. Say her name. Namali Henry, say her name. Say her name. Daranisha Clay, say her name. Say her name. Jessica Denise Brown, say her name. Say her name. Shatika Fuller, say her name. Say her name. Shakai Ali Saeed, say her name. Say her name. Barbara Stewart, say her name. Say her name. Kendra Chapman, say her name. Say her name. Marcella Bird, say her name. Say her name. Angel Viola DiCarlo, say her name. Say her name. Adrian Arrington, say her name. Say her name. Maya Hall, say her name. Say her name. Elaine Coleman, say her name. Say her name. Armetta Foster, say her name. Armetta Foster, say her name. Anita Gay, say her name. Say her name. India Beatty, say her name. Say her name. Aurora Serre, say her name. Say her name. Quintrice McAllister, say her name. Say her name. Rakina Jones, say her name. Say her name. Letha Coretta Adams, say her name. Say her name. Yvette Williams, say her name. Say her name. Kim Doreen Chase, say her name. Say her name.
Camille Weens. Say her name. Camille. Gabriela Navarez. Say her name. Say her name. Matia Groom. Say her name. Say her name. Ariel Levy. Say her name. Say her name. Laline Polanco. Say her name. Say her name. Tanisha Anderson. Say her name. Say her name. Tessa Hartman. Say her name. Say her name. Mocha Horton. Say her name. Say her name. Simone Marshall. Say her name. Say her name. Anja Dixon. Say her name. Say her name. Helen Jones. Say her name. Say her name. Asia Fitzgerald. Say her name. Say her name. Tamika Lachey Simpson. Say her name. Lori Jean Ellis. Say her name. Say her name. name. Say her name. Charmel Edwards. Say her name. Say her name. Barbara Lassier. Say her name. Say her name. DeWanda Peterson. Say her name. Yawanda Peterson. Say her name. Say her name. Priscilla Slater. Say her name. Say her name.
Denise Michelle Washington. Say her name.
Denise Michelle Washington.
Say her name.
Denise Michelle Washington.
Alicia Thomas. Say her name.
Alicia Thomas.
Say her name.
Alicia Thomas.
Anna Brown. Say her name.
Anna Brown.
Say her name.
Anna Brown.
Linda Sue Davis. Say her name.
Linda Sue Davis.
Say her name.
Linda Sue Davis.
Madeline Miller. Say her name.
Madeline Miller.
Say her name.
Madeline Miller.
Jada Elizabeth Johnson. Say her name.
Jada Elizabeth Johnson.
Say her name.
Jada Elizabeth Johnson.
Erica Graham. Say her name.
Erica Graham.
Say her name.
Erica Graham.
Janet Wilson. Say her name.
Janet Wilson.
Say her name.
Janet Wilson.
Tiffany Eubanks. Say her name.
Tiffany Eubanks.
Say her name.
Tiffany Eubanks.
Brenda Williams. Say her name.
Brenda Williams.
Say her name.
Brenda Williams.
Latasha Nicole Walton. Say her name.
Natasha Nicole Walton.
Say her name.
Natasha Nicole Walton.
Angelique Stiles. Say her name.
Angelique Stiles.
Say her name.
Angelique Stiles.
Summer Marie Lane. Say her name.
Summer Marie Lane.
Say her name.
Summer Marie Lane.
Tina Davis. Say her name.
Tina Davis.
Say her name.
Tina Davis.
India Cummings. Say her name.
India Cummings.
Say her name.
India Cummings.
Deborah Danner. Say her name.
Deborah Danner.
Say her name.
Deborah Danner.
Carolyn Moran Hernandez. Say her name.
Carolyn Moran Hernandez.
Say her name.
Carolyn Moran Hernandez.
Shirley Andrews. Say her name.
Shirley Andrews.
Say her name.
Shirley Andrews.
Sandy Gardelia. Say her name. Sandy Gardelia. Say her name.
Sandy Gardelia.
Say her name.
Sandy Gardelia.
Yolanda Thomas. Say her name.
Yolanda Thomas.
Say her name.
Yolanda Thomas.
Taranika Jenkins. Say her name.
Taranika Jenkins.
Say her name.
Taranika Jenkins.
Dericia Blackwell. Say her name.
Dericia Blackwell.
Say her name.
Dericia Blackwell.
Raynette Turner. Say her name.
Raynette Turner.
Say her name.
Raynette Turner.
Mabel Lucille Arrington. Say her name.
Mabel Lucille Arrington.
Say her name.
Mabel Lucille Arrington.
Sharon Rebecca McDowell. Say her name.
Sharon Rebecca McDowell.
Say her name.
Sharon Rebecca McDowell.
Delisha Africa. Say her name.
Delisha Africa.
Say her name.
Delisha Africa.
Martina Brown. Say her name.
Martina Brown.
Say her name.
Martina Brown.
Alicia McCullough. Say her name.
Alicia McCullough.
Say her name.
Alicia McCullough.
Aaliyah Mariah Jenkins. Say her name.
Aaliyah Mariah Jenkins.
Carrie Ann hyphen, say her name. Say her name. Yvette Smith, say her name. Say her name. Monica Goods, say her name. Say her name. Renee Davis, say her name. Say her name. Kayla Moore, say her name. Say her name. Nina Adams, say her name. Say her name. Erica Hainsworth, say her name. Say her name. Courtney Hahn, say her name. Say her name.
Markeisha McMillan, say her name. Say her name. Brianna Sykes, say her name. Say her name. Tarika Wilson, say her name. Say her name. Belinda Samisha McKinster, say her name. Corinda, say her name. Samisha McKinster, say her name. Ayana Stanley Jones, say her name. Say her name. Rebel Jones, say her name. Say her name. Keisha Aaron, say her name. Say her name.
Fantability, say her name. Say her name. Cynthia Fields, say her name. Say her name. Stephanie Wilson, say her name. Say her name. Tamika Jordan, say her name. Say her name. Nikita Williams, say her name. Say her name. Netta Africa, say her name. Say her name. Gwendolyn Killings, say her name. Say her name. Charlena Lyles, say her name. Say her name.
Brenda Williams, say her name. Say her name. Crystal Ragland, say her name. Say her name. Emily Marie Dallafield, say her name. Say her name. Dagarisa Elaine Crawford, say her name. Say her name. Kaizia Miller, say her name. Say her name. Jamila Yasmin Rashad, say her name. Say her name. Yulia May Love, say her name. Say her name. Carolyn Jean Daniels, say her name. Say her name. LaShonda Anderson, say her name. Say her name. Latondra Ellington, say her name. Say her name. Aika Boyd, Rakia Boyd, say her name. Say her name. Rakia Boyd, say her name. Say her name. Rhonda Harris Ward, Africa, say her name. Say her name. Keisha Michael, say her name. Say her
Francis, say her name. Say her name. Eleanor Northington, say her name. Say her name. Michelle Cusseau, say her name. Say her name. Fabricia Gaynor, say her name. Say her name. Janice Stevens, say her name. Say her name. India Nelson, say her name. Say her name. Joyce Cornell, say her name. Say her name. Brianna Greer, say her name. Say her name. Latanya Haggerty, say her name. Say her name. Shanique Proctor, say her name. Say her name. Darnisha Harris, say her name. Say her name. Waukesha Wilson, say her name. Say her name. Alteria Woods, say her name. Say her name. Marnell Valerial, say her name. Varnell Valerial, say her name. Janisha Fonville, say her name. Say her name. LaRonda Sweat, say her name. Say her name. Frankie Perkins, say her name. Say her name. Melissa Williams, say her name. Say her name. Desaria Whitmore, say her name. Say her name. Makia Bryant, say her name. Say her name. Ladamorian Hall, say her name. Say her name. Alkita Walker, say her name. Say her name. Geraldine Townsend, say her name. Say her name. Shayla Ridgway, say her name. Say her name. Crystalline Barnes, say her name. Say her name. Adebusola Taru, say her name. Say her name. Jessica Williams, say her name. Say her name. Sandra Bland, say her name. Breonna Taylor, say her name. Michelle Shirley, say her name. Pamela Turner, say her name. Corinne Gaines, say her name. I cannot say. Miriam Carey, say her name. India Kager, say her name. Shelley Fry, say her name. Say her name. Tatiana Jefferson, say her name. Say her name. Until Thank you all for joining us in that ritual. It is the center of our movement and our commitment to bear witness. As we move from our expression of sorrow to our determination to seek justice, I would like to ask Abby to bring us a song that captures our aspirations for a livable future. And after that song, we will invite Sharmina Nelson and Sharon Wilkerson to give us our charge and our benediction. And after that, we invite you to stay with us, to lift the vibration and fellowship with each other.
I wish I knew how it would feel to be free. I wish I could break all the chains holding me. I wish I could say all the things that I should say. Say 'em loud, say 'em clear, for the whole round world to hear. I wish I knew how it would feel to be free. I wish I could break all the chains holding me. I wish I could say all the things that I should say. Say 'em loud, say 'em clear, for the whole round world to hear. I wish I could share all the love that's in my heart. Remove all the bars that keep us apart. I wish you could know what it means to be me. Then you'll see and agree that everyone should be free. I wish I could give all I'm longing to give. I wish I could live like I'm longing to live. I wish you would know what it means to be me. Then you'll see and agree that everyone should be free. I wish I could be like a bird in the sky. How sweet it would be if I could fly through the sun and look down at the sea. And I'll sing 'cause I know. Yeah, I'd sing 'cause I know. Yeah, I'll sing 'cause I know how it feels
evening, everyone. Good evening. My name is Sharmina Nelson. I'm the Chief of Staff and Director of Community Engagement at the African American Policy Forum. And I'm joined by Sharon Wilkerson, affectionately called by me, Mother Sharon, mother of Shelley Fry. We want to thank Abby and Wes for that beautiful musical rendering. And thank you all for your part in the Say Her Name call and response ritual. The heaviness of the ritual is not lost on us. It is our desire that you channel the emotions you're feeling right now into action. We want this not to be something for spectators. We are honored that you're in this space, but I am holding you and charging you all to do something with that energy. So as it's been said multiple times tonight, you can text SHN to 855-579-1270 to join the Say Her Name campaign. This evening is also an opportunity for immediate action. So right over here, we have our Say Her Name advocacy installation. It has our 5x5 of activities you can do to get involved with the campaign. So following the program, we're asking you to head over there and learn more about how you can get involved, ways to educate yourself, and ways to pull other people into the community. I want to thank the Mothers Network members. Thank you for trusting us. Thank you for trusting me. I love you all truly. And we will continue to fight to make sure your daughters, your sister, your mother, and all your loved ones are remembered.
Good evening, everyone. I'm not a speaker.
Yes, you are. You're speaking tonight.
I was pulled into this tonight. It's an honor to be here. First of all, we have to do something about the numbers. There's too many women are being murdered. It was too many names was called. We have to put a stop to this madness. We cannot sit and allow this to keep happening to our daughters, our mothers, our sisters. We can't continue to let this happen. We have to put a stop. We have to come together. We can't just keep sitting back. We got to come together as one. And if we don't put a stop to it, nobody else will. There was one young lady, she was calling the names and she was weeping right here. I felt you. I felt your pain. It was hard. You wasn't the only one, but I zoomed in. It hurt. I felt, Ashley, I haven't grieved. It's 11 years, but I haven't had a chance to grieve because I have her girls. So I haven't had that chance to grieve. When the young lady told my story, that was my chance to grieve. You did it for me. 11 years. Sound like it just happened. I thank you. I didn't have that chance. I didn't have that chance because I had to be strong for those two little girls. Nobody understood the pain. I'm hurting inside, but nobody understood the pain because I had to be strong. I had to be strong for everybody. But nobody was strong for me. It hurts so bad. I felt like it just happened.
Mothers, please. Mothers. Y'all mothers, touch me. What often happens in this space when mothers and family members are with each other, they're able to feel that because they have people who can touch it like none of us can. This is what they do with each other, for each other. And this is what we're honored to witness and to support in every way we can. Tonight, you became part of that. The fact that you are here, the fact that your heart is available means that you've begun to bear witness with us. So we want to thank you again. We want to invite you to stay with us. We want to invite you to sistership and fellowship. And we hope to see you in the future as this movement continues. So thank you all for being with us tonight.